The Joe Judge era is finally over for the New York Giants, and it is one that most Giants fans are hoping to forget as quickly as possible. A 4-13 record this past season led to Judge's firing, and they brought in Brian Daboll as a replacement. The Giants are a team that has had an extremely interesting offseason, and the expectations for next year are unclear. They lost some guys that are key leaders like Logan Ryan, but they also brought in some guys that can help to give some confidence to the young quarterback in Daniel Jones. But with the Brian Daboll offense, how long could Jones last? Today, I'm going to talk about what the plan should be going forward for the New York Giants for the 2022 NFL season. The Giants hold pick 5 and 7 in the 2022 NFL Draft, and we will get to who they should probably look at selecting a little later on in the video. But with the Saquon Barkley trade rumors, you might get the sense that they could hold another top 10 pick before draft day, if they choose to move on from him. The Jets and Dolphins have shown a little bit of interest, and I think that it could definitely be a connection there to either one of those teams, and the Jets hold 2 top 10 picks, so that would be a team that I'd look at to move Saquon Barkley to. But with the Brian Daboll addition, I think that there's a very solid chance that they keep Barkley, and this plays in a lot to what they could potentially do next season. Since firing Joe Judge, the Giants have had an extremely eventful offseason, and it's time to recap it. They named Brandon Brown as the assistant general manager, moved Kevin Abrams to senior vice president of football operations. That was made just a week later after Brian Daboll was hired. Daboll coming over from the Buffalo Bills, where he had a ton of success with Josh Allen, leading them to a couple deep playoff runs consecutively, both of which ending to the Kansas City Chiefs. When free agency opened, this is where it really hurt the New York Giants, and it's going to play in a huge role for what I think the plan is going forward for this team. Max Garcia came in on a 1-year contract over from the Arizona Cardinals. They signed Ricky Seals-Jones as a tight end option after losing Evan Ingram. Also, Tyrod Taylor coming in might spark a hair of quarterback controversy. I personally don't think so, as I believe that Brian Daboll probably has the best chance of anybody in the NFL right now to turn around Daniel Jones' career. You can let me know what you guys think of that, but if he can do half of what he did in Buffalo with Josh Allen, I think that the Giants will be in a pretty solid spot going forward for next year. The loss of Logan Ryan may hurt a little more than you could suspect, as he was really the leader on that defense. But you see a lot of the former Patriots that came in with Joe Judge are now leaving as the Joe Judge era ended. You're seeing Nate Solder as he moves on, and that's definitely going to be a thing that can help a team like the Giants at this current state. A pretty rough offseason as for what left, but it's going to be a rebuilding situation, and I think that a lot of Giants fans probably know by now that sadly Brian Daboll can't just come in and snap his fingers and make everything happen instantly as much as they would want it to. However, with Kadarius Toney and that offense, I think all you have to really do is build a better offensive line, and if you keep Saquon Barkley around, and if you can pray that he stays healthy, and he will, then they're in a pretty good spot. I don't think that they're ready to contend just yet. Antonio Williams and Davis Webb also came over from the Buffalo Bills, along with Daboll. Antonio Williams could be a very interesting player. He played just 1 game last year and got 2 touchdowns, 20 yards on 1 reception, and he had 12 rushing attempts for 63 yards. So I think that if Antonio Williams can somehow be a diamond in the rough for the New York Giants, they'll definitely be in a better situation. And I'm not saying that he should be a number one running back by any means, but it may give a little bit more leverage, and the Giants may be a little more keen to the idea of moving on from Saquon Barkley. They could get solid value for him. I don't think Barkley holds exactly the same value at this point as Christian McCaffrey does, because you can hear a lot more about McCaffrey's market. That's why I bring it up. And we know how dominant Barkley can be when he stays healthy. It's a massive if, and I don't think that it would really be the best option right now for the New York Giants to put too much faith on Barkley going into this season as much as they did last year. Or for the last few years, that is. They're in a very team-friendly division. The NFC East still is having its struggles, and maybe they could contend for a middle seed in that division. I think that depending on what Daboll does, they might be able to finish third in the division ahead of Philadelphia. With pick 5, I think that the offensive line will have to be the priority. If a guy like Evan Neal is still on the board, that's definitely who you take. They have to build that offensive line, and then they hold number 7, which is just 2 picks later, and they could potentially go for a guy like Sauce Gardner. It all depends on who is still on the board. I think Evan Neal and Sauce Gardner would be a lethal combination in the draft, but also there'll be guys like Charles Cross who could potentially go to the Giants if they prioritize a position at 5 over offensive line, which I don't think that they could. So Cross could potentially be a 7th overall selection, but with the Carolina Panthers in there, I think that they would be a team that would also be in the market for an offensive lineman at this point, which is definitely the strongest position in the draft this year. If they can get the best offensive lineman in the draft in Evan Neal, that would definitely be something that the Giants could be happy with and work with. But with the range that they're in, you know that Hutchinson's going to be off the board. Thibodeaux will likely be gone by then. So edge rusher, probably not in the market for. And you're most likely not going for a defensive lineman, as you have that position plugged up with Leonard Williams right now. So I think if they move on with those 2 players, those being Ahmad Sauce Gardner and Evan Neal, the Giants could be in a situation to be a very scary team, not next year, but the future. The Giants have drafted all right in the past, and I think with the Brian Daboll era, they're going to be able to use the guys like Kadarius Toney and hopefully Daniel Jones to their advantage and rebuild that offense as quickly and as efficiently as possible. While they might not contend next year, I predict that they could be a middle-of-the-pack team, but still go for a top 10 pick. If they can land a top 10 pick for another year in a row, then they'll be able to finish a retooling and a very long rebuild, and hopefully contend next year. As for the plan for this season, I think that the New York Giants have to take into consideration the fact that they have had a lot of struggles recently, and their fan base may be getting a little reckless. However, I think that Giants fans, be patient. Brian Daboll is your guy, and if he can retool this offense and the defense as quickly as possible, a new coaching staff, they get rid of a Patriot system that did not work too well in New York, I think that the Giants are going to be able to be a very strong team next year, and they may surprise a few people. I think the plan is for the Giants to get another top 10 pick and then move forward in their rebuild. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. This is a very different kind of video as what I'm used to doing, but I wanted to make something as a series as for what is the plan for these teams going forward. The ones that are at the bottom of the league, the ones like Seattle, the ones like the New York Giants and the Jets. And expect it to be a series that will be coming out more regularly as long as you guys like it. So I hope that you enjoyed. Leave a thumbs up to let me know that you did. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Goodbye.